It starts whenever you say your first word.
Okay, so to begin, first of all, thank you for allowing me to be here and as well as Nate and everybody being here. Appreciate it. To begin, I'll define the word woman because that's typically what people want to hear, right? So, woman is a gender identity that aligns with female typical traits. Trans women have a gender identity that aligns with female typical traits. Therefore, trans women are women. So, that's essentially my argument. Now, since my argument is logically valid, my opponent would have to find a linguistic issue with this in order to render it false. They could assert that woman equals adult human female, but this definition lacks the utility that my definition provides. See, there's a reason why experts agree that gender and sex are distinct, as woman as a gender identity actually encapsulates the observed psychological, sociological, and neurobiological aspects of gender that a sex-based definition simply cannot. There's more to a person's manhood than just the reproductive system. There's a gender expression. There's a gender expression I exhibit, masculinity. There are social roles I fulfill with respect to my manhood, right? Expectations to be a protector and be assertive. There's an entire identity that I have, and this has much more to do with my manhood than just my reproductive anatomy. In fact, if you swapped out my chromosomes with XX, I'd still be a man. If you swap my genitals with female ones, I'd still be a man. If you reorganized my entire reproductive system to produce large gametes, I'd still be a man. I would still want to do manly things. I would still want to fulfill manly roles. I'd still want to express myself masculine. Literally nothing about my manhood would change except for a few organs. So there are far more psychosocial and behavioral traits associated with my manhood than there are sex traits. So to reduce my manhood down to a few organs is not consistent with the reality of gendered experiences. It's just a blatant rejection of various fields of study that are converging in their understanding of gender versus sex, challenging my opponent's bioessentialist notion. To further bolster my argument, there's an emerging consensus amongst experts that gender identity has a neurobiological basis. Studies find that the brain is responsible for how we identify, our body perceptions, all the gendered aspects that predispose us to being man or woman or any other identity. So here's a heavily cited 2022 study called The Brain, Sex, and Transgender Woman is Shifted Toward Gender Identity in the Journal of Clinical Medicine. It looked at 24 trans women, 24 cis men, and 24 cis women brains via MRI, analyzed them versus a trained algorithm that sampled 500 brains with 90% accuracy and was able to determine people's brain sex. And that brain sex was on a continuum between male and female, allowing for a spectrum of brain types, with cis brains aligning with cis men brains aligning with male type brains, and inversely for cis women. So after analyzing brain scans of the participants, it was found that trans brains were shifted away from their birth sex type brain and towards their gender identity. Now, statistical tests found that the correlations compared to their cis counterparts had a p-value of about 0.016, meaning there was only a 1.6% probability of this being the result of chance. And our identities mostly begin before birth. The brain differentiates based on hormones, can be masculinized or feminized, giving rise to someone's gender identity. Many trans people experience trans phantom sensations, indicating a mental body schema in the brain. Gender dysphoria indicates psychological distress. And gender affirming care actually helps their mental state of affairs. So all of these real and observed phenomena are predicted by my model of gender, not by my opponents. If what my model is saying is true, we would expect to find all these sorts of features in trans folks. But my opponent's view that sex determines gender says all the neuroscience, all the sociological studies, all the psychology, the consensus, which aligns with my position, right? Haslanger, Betcher, Jenkins, all these theorists, organizations like the APA, WPATH, the Endocrine Society, all the neuroscience, like from people like Savik and Schwab, the entire academic understanding of gender today, it's all just wrong. because adult human female, and by the way, get out of our bathrooms. So denying this evidence would just be to deny the science. What's more is that I can actually absorb your sex-based definition and say that the female reproductive system is a female typical trait. But clearly there's more to womanhood than that, right? Typically people with female reproductive systems are women, but not always. My opponent's definition doesn't account at all for any of the nuances. And so the adult human female definition is largely compatible with mine, but mine goes further. It's more precise with respect to observations of human behavior. So there's a pragmatic case for the usage of the word woman the way contemporary gender theory does, and not the way my opponent does. Now, remember, my argument is not solely contingent on neuroscience. My opponent would have to find a linguistic issue with my argument. There's also an ethical case to be made here that even if all the science is wrong, it would be ethically beneficial to normalize trans women as women, as maintaining gender-affirming care actually saves lives and reduces the dogma and bigotry we so often see fueled by willful ignorance from the opposing side. Instead of denying and shunning away our complexities, I think we should instead, at the very least, try to understand them and ultimately embrace people's complexities, their freedom to be and their freedom to love. So my view is scientifically, pragmatically, linguistically, and ethically superior in every way to my opponents. That's all.
Okay. With that, thank you for your opening statement. And now we're going to move on to Edna's opening statement. I am canceling the timer. And Edna, you're going to get 7 minutes, and it's going to start whenever you say your first word.
Good evening, panelists. Good evening, Mike. Good evening, host. I appreciate you for accommodating me for this debate. I'll go ahead and start now. So, as a gender-critical individual, I have noticed an uptick in arguments that aim to prove a neurobiological basis for gender identity. Such claims lack evidence and fail to prove a causal relation between one's neurological development or neuroanatomy and their gender identity. These ideas and arguments promote neurosexism, the incorrect idea that persons' behaviors and their identities are influenced, or gender roles or behaviors or gendered behaviors are influenced by parts of neuroanatomy, are often reductive, sexist, and reduce women and men to stereotypes and social norms that have been historically and systemically utilized to oppress them. Whilst I understand and acknowledge that there are individuals who experience psychological distress with the sex that they were observed, it does not mean that they can have feelings of the opposite sex nor identify as the opposite sex, seeing as though sex is not a feeling, but instead a biological state of being that exists independent of one's feelings, emotions, and thoughts. In today's debate, I will highlight the key flaws in using neurobiology or neurobiological inconclusive studies to prove gender identity, and also prove that my opponent, who clearly doesn't understand gender, seems to confuse concepts of masculinity and femininity with womanhood and manhood. Social and cultural norms typically associated with the sexes, such as being manly or being a protector, as he previously mentioned, actually refer to masculine expectations, expectations that women and men do not have to adhere to and are not defined by. Additionally, the idea of gender identity promotes the idea that women and men are simply identities, not people. Right? Referring to womanhood as a gender identity simply reduces women to a thought, reduces women to an idea, something that they are not. They are physical, unique, adult human females. Additionally, my opponent will prove here in today's debate that he lacks the sufficient evidence to make the claims about neurobiology and lacks the evidence required to make claims about neurobiology regarding gender identity. Right? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your opening statement. With that, I'm going to end your timer, and we're going to move on to, this is just going to be like your rebuttals to the opening statement. So it's not yet time for you guys to cross-examine each other. You'll just be doing like your rebuttals or maybe some things you disagree with about your opponent's opening statement. So Mike, you're going to get 5 minutes, and it starts whenever you say your first word to respond to his opening statement. It starts when you say your first word. Oh, you're muted. Sorry,
everything he said was pretty much false, right? So in the domains of science, when we study, especially neuroscience, we're not looking at causal mechanisms, right? Trying to demonstrate a causal mechanism cannot be done in just one mere study, right? It is something that takes a cumulative case to do so. For example, for the longest time, it wasn't known conclusively. There was no causal mechanism between smoking and lung cancer, right? But enough correlative data added up and accumulated into the causal case. Same with things like autism, right? We still don't know the cause necessarily of autism. We still don't know the cause of gravity. So we don't need a causal mechanism to know that, yes, there's evidence that this thing is happening, right? There's a gendered aspect of the brain. And this is why it's the consensus amongst scientists and experts in the field. So yeah, that was all nonsense. And identity is not the same thing as a feeling. When I say identity, I don't mean I just feel this way or have a thought. It's a deep internal sense of who you are. It is something that is done unconsciously. It's not just a feeling or a thought, right? It's something innate to all of us, innate to our conscious experience. That's like saying, consciousness is a feeling. No, it's an identity. It's something deeper than that. So that's a straw man to say that, oh, I think sex is a feeling. Studies aren't conclusive. This is another flaw he's saying. When a study says it's inconclusive, that doesn't mean that it's invalid. It doesn't mean that it doesn't count as evidence. That's just not how science works, right? Again, we build a cumulative case. We build a case that accumulates evidence and data, and then we find it matches to some conclusion. So no one study is going to necessarily be conclusive. In fact, if you were to say that you have to find me one study that's conclusive, then you just have to reject climate change, reject all the things we know about in science because, there's no one study that makes it conclusive, right? It's almost rare to find such a thing in science, but we can still get data. We can still extract data. We can still understand how things happen through science, like climate change and autism and lung cancer. Another thing he said was gender expectations that I described mean every person has to do that. No, again, that's why I make sure to mention the typicality aspect to gender, right? When I say that men are masculine, I mean that in a typical sense. Typically, men are masculine, though clearly there are women who are masculine. But again, how we categorize men versus women is based on typicalities. And any kind of, oh no, you have to have necessary conditions is a blatant begging the question fallacy, right? Because what you're saying is my theory of categorization has to be true, which is essentialism, right? I say, no, that's not what I'm doing. So you're question begging when you say that there must be necessary conditions or else you don't have a definition. That's just not how definitions work in linguistics. And again, last thing, if I have some time, he mentioned sexism and stereotypes. No, by definition, I'm not even talking about sex, right? I'm talking about gender norms and expectations. A stereotype is an oversimplification or a generalization about somebody with a negative connotation attached to it, right? Like women are bad drivers. That's a stereotype. But when I describe an archetype of something, right? Like, women have long hair. That's not a stereotype in the sense that I'm not saying all women must have long hair or all women must be this way. We're saying it's a typicality. And so we're describing an archetype, not a stereotype. How much time?
Yeah, there's a lot of gifts that are coming in, but you had 30 seconds. But would that be the conclusion of your rebuttal?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll end your timer. And now, Edna, it's going to be your turn to do a rebuttal to Mike's opening statement. And then after that, we're going to get into the cross-examinations. You're going to get 5 minutes, and it starts whenever you say your first word.
Okay, so I'd just like to firstly clarify. I'd just like to first to clarify that the claim about neurobiology, especially with reference to the study that Mike's cited, which was that brain sex in transgender women is shifted towards gender identity, it actually states in the study that he listed that the brain sex metric that they had utilized still had a transgender women closer to cisgender men if he had actually read the study, which he clearly hasn't. Additionally, you did reference gender roles. You did reference defining women and men by gender roles because you said that categorization was based on those things. Your statement about roles in society, yet again, are reductive because stereotypes do oversimplify categories. They represent categories as distorted as possible and don't actually categorize the group of people. When you use language like typically, you're not including all women, you're including most and not all. Right? Therefore, it doesn't actually encompass the entire category. You're just using a typicality or a generalization. That's not what we're here to prove. We're not here to prove that typically trans women are women. We're not here to prove. Host, just to clarify, some people think there's an echo.
Okay. Yeah, I can. Here, let me pause your time. I'm gonna pause it at like. I'm gonna give you like 3 minutes, 50 seconds. Let's yeah, check for that echo.
I think Mike
maybe
needs to mute.
Or mute real quick, Mike, and then say something again there.
Yeah, testing. Yeah, it's gone now.
Okay. Okay,
Right.
cool. I'll time you for my laptop. Give me 1 sec.
Okay.
Let me set a timer for. It's gonna be.
Right. So there. Can I go ahead? Sorry.
Yes, you can start now.
Okay, right. So that is as far as the social arguments are concerned. Aside from that, back to the neurobiological arguments. The neurobiological arguments, if Mike agrees that they only prove correlation, they don't prove causation, he cannot then make claims that gender identity has a neurobiological basis, meaning that it is based in, caused by, or exists because of neuroanatomy. He can state that there are hypotheses that may attempt to prove or attempt to insinuate or propose the idea that gender identity is neurobiologically based. But in order for a person to make the claim that gender identity has a neurobiological basis, is simply to indicate or to propose that it is based in and or is defined by or caused by one's neurological development. Additionally, as far as the social arguments are concerned, we have to understand that there are differences between associative and definitive characteristics of men and women. My opponent here is not defining men and women, but simply defining them or referencing characteristics that are commonly or traditionally associated with men and women. When we look throughout history, we understand that there are lots of women and men who do not conform to traditional gender norms, do not conform to social norms and stereotypes or archetypes associated with their sex, yet are still men and women. So the idea that men and women are defined, even in typical cases, by archetypes and social norms is completely sexist and yet again ignores the lived experience of women and also ignores the oppression that women historically and systemically have faced on the basis of sex, not gender identity. I'm finished. Go ahead.
Okay. Yep. Thank you for your rebuttal to the opening statement. Now we're going to move on to 2 rounds of cross-examination. So during this time, Mike Brigandi, you're going to go first. This is your time to substantiate your position and delegitimize your opponent's position. Like I said in the beginning, if your opponent is talking and you want them to stop, all you have to do is say, I reclaim my time, and then we'll stop the timer, get everything under control, then resume the timer when everything is like back under control. So Mike, you're going to start your 5-minute cross-examination. I'll time you for my laptop. And give me 1 sec. And yeah, you're good to go whenever you say your first word.
Great. So, Edna, do you think that in order to define something in a category, you have to have a necessary condition?
I believe that it is best to, not that you always. I'll actually say yes. Sure. You do.
Okay, you do. Okay. So, like when you're defining anything, this applies to every category, there has to be a necessary condition?
In order to make the claim that it is definitive, yes.
Okay. I'm getting it's all right. So what would you say the necessary condition of a truck is, or a car?
I wouldn't have
Distinct from a car.
I wouldn't have necessary conditions for those concepts. Therefore, I would say I don't have a definition for those things.
You can't define a car?
Not in terms of necessary and sufficient conditions off the top of my head. No,
So you have no idea how to define a car.
I don't. Not in a definitive necessary with providing necessary and sufficient conditions.
This is insane. So clearly, okay, when we define words in linguistics, we're looking at typicality. So I take a prototype theory in linguistics. Right? This is a theory in which we categorize things on prototypical things. Like a robin is a type of bird. It's a prototypical bird, but not every bird has to have those kinds of features of a robin. And so that's a kind of theory in linguistics that doesn't need necessary conditions. Another one is cluster concepts, right? There is no such thing as necessary conditions in cluster concepts. How do you define a game with any condition that's necessary? You can't. It's not possible. That's why we use cluster concepts, and that's why they are valid ways of using definitions and categories. Next question. And if I replace since your definition of woman is an adult human female, correct?
Yes.
Okay. A female is somebody who is female is a reproductive system organized around production large gametes.
I'll clarify the definition. A female is any organism that is of or primarily denoting the sex that produces large gametes with reference to inherent characteristics developed independently of surgical augmentation and medical intervention.
Okay, so if I replace my reproductive system with a female's, everything else stay the same. Would that make me a woman?
No, because my definition stipulates that the category is defined with reference to characteristics developed independently of surgical augmentation or medical intervention. The replacement of one's reproductive organs would be a medical surgical augmentation.
Yeah.
So no.
Let's say there was no surgery. I happen to wake up tomorrow morning and have a female reproductive system. Would that make me a woman?
If you belonged to a sequentially hermaphroditic species, yes. Sure, but humans are not sequentially hermaphroditic. Humans are gonochoric.
Okay.
So that would not apply to real humans. Humans are gonochoric species, not sequentially hermaphroditic. So no.
Okay. Yeah, so I think this is insane to reduce women down to their freaking sex organs. Now, here's a great follow-up question. I mean, do you agree that there's more to womanhood than just having a reproductive system around producing large gametes?
I believe that there is more to womanhood in an associative sense, not in a determinative sense. So I categorize the womanhood into two categories. You have determinative characteristics or aspects of womanhood, and you have associative characteristics. The determinative is biology that refers to the sex that an individual is born. However, there are associative attributes, things that are not necessarily definitive, but instead are simply ascribed to women. So there is more to it, but not definitively.
Yeah, what I'm saying is womanhood is comprised of just my sex, or is it comprised of more things?
Definitively, it is composed or comprised of sex. Associatively, it can reference other social and cultural concepts, but not definitively. So if you're asking only definitively, yes, it only consists of sex definitively, yes.
So nothing makes me a man except for my reproductive system, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Not my experiences as a man?
No, because none of your experiences are definitive. These are the experiences that men and women experience socially intersect. They aren't definitive.
Okay. So I don't know what you mean by definitive.
They don't provide necessary conditions for the category.
All right. Now, when we see someone on the street, how do you guess their gender?
Pardon?
How do you guess someone's gender?
I often assume or insinuate based upon particular characteristics.
What are those characteristics?
Often secondary sex characteristics are characteristics I use to insinuate or assume that persons are men and women. The operative word being assumed. Okay, and
you think those are sufficient? Those are just as good indicators of sex as sex is to those secondary characteristics?
No, because
answer that question and then I'll conclude.
Secondary sex characteristics do not define sex, so no, they're not as good an indicator. I just want
to clarify. That's not what I asked you. I asked you if they're good indicators, not
you asked if they were just as good an indicator.
Okay, we're gonna have to stop there. So that's gonna be the conclusion of the 5-minute cross-examination for Mike. Now we're gonna go on to Edna's 5-minute cross-examination. Mm-hmm. This is the part where you establish your position or delegitimize his position by asking questions. Again, you can reclaim your time. We'll stop the timer, get everything under control whenever you want your opponent to stop talking. So your 5 minutes will start whenever you say your first word.
Okay, sure. All right. So, Mike, I have a question. Do you believe that the bed nucleus of the striatum terminalis in the human hypothalamus causes or is causal to one's gender identity? Yes or no?
We don't know if it's causal, but we have evidence that is correlated to gender identity, and that's sufficient to warrant the belief in the model of gender theory in which we understand it to be the reason why people have gender identity. That's
the
it's
reason
not
would
just
be,
that, by the way. There's
I reclaim
multiple
my time.
others.
I reclaim my time. When you refer to the reason for something, you're referring to the cause. So when you say that it's a reason for gender identity, are you referring to
Not
the
necessarily.
reason that it is there?
Well, we can infer a cause, right? This is how neuroscience works. We infer causes by the correlative data, and if there's enough of it, we can say that there's a causal mechanism here, that we can infer that there may be a causal mechanism, just like lung cancer and smoking.
Okay, sure. All right. So I'm going to ask a question. Do you believe that persons are born trans?
No, nobody's born trans. They're born with their identity.
But isn't a trans person a person whose gender identity does not align with their sex?
Yeah, with their
So if they're born with the
not
ident-
their sex. No, let me clarify. Not just their sex. Their assigned gender or sex.
Okay, so the sex of the individual. Okay,
And that
so
happens when you're born. That happens after you're born.
okay, great. When do you think gender identity develops in humans?
The evidence suggests that it develops even as a fetus in the womb.
Okay, what is the methodology that was utilized to determine that these parts of the brain or gender identity is formed in the womb?
We study brain scans of people and fetuses in the womb, and we look at their dimorphisms in their brains. This is like basic science.
I reclaim my time. Really quickly, how did we determine this is the question? Just to clarify, you're not answering the question. The question is, what was the... I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time. The question is, just to clarify, what are the methodologies that were utilized and the name of a source, please?
The methodology is by observing with MRI scans the fetus's brains, and we look at the sexual dimorphic parts of the brains between females and males. And that's how we know that there's a sexual dimorphism happening even in the utero.
What's the source for that?
Sure, let me pull it up.
Host, I have a quick question. While a person's looking up a source, does the time continue or does it pause? Since there's no dialogue happening.
It is up to both of you guys. Are you both okay with pausing the
Here's
time?
here's one called thalamus development in fetuses. It's called complex trajectories of brain development in the healthy human fetus. And I looked at the thalamus and saw it observed these dimorphisms in fetuses. You want more?
Okay, really quick pause, guys. Are you both okay with like pausing when you guys look for sources, or do you want the
Yeah,
time to
it's fine,
keep
it's fine.
Yes, please. Yeah. So repeat the name of the source, please.
Complex trajectories of brain development in healthy human fetus.
Complex trajectories. Okay, 1 second. I have it here. Okay, and where in that study does it indicate a methodology that proves sexual dimorphism in the brain?
It says we studied 166 healthy fetuses that underwent MRI between 18 and 39 completed weeks gestation. We created three-dimensional high-res reconstructions of the brain and calculated volumes for left and right cortical gray matter, fetal white matter, deep subcortical structures in the cerebellum.
Yeah, this doesn't reference anything with regard to sexual dimorphism. Where does it prove sexual dimorphism in the human brain?
It looked at the differences in the brains between these female and male fetuses.
It does not say that. Sex is not referenced once in the study. You haven't read the study. The study references nothing about sex. The study simply states, yeah, where in the study does it reference sex?
I can pull it up if you just look at the
I'm
methodology
reading
of the
it.
study. Do you have the full study in front of you?
I have the abstract, which is what I'm able to access.
Oh, the abstract. That's why you're confused.
Well,
the abstract is not the whole study. If
Well, you
look
just
at
read.
these-
You just
if you
read
look at
the.
this materials and methods.
I
it
reclaim
says-
my time. Mike, can you show to us where in the study it references sexual dimorphism?
Yes.
Yeah, read it and show me what line I'm to look
Image
at.
segmentation and volumetric analysis.
Yeah, so the study just references normal fetal brain growth independent of sex. The words male and female are not used once in the study.
Yes, it is. They're looking
Where?
at, you're not reading it in front of me. You're not reading
Yeah,
it.
read what it says about sex. You're lying. The
I'm
study,
not
the
lying.
study
I'm
reference
not.
is nothing. I reclaim my time. The
It
study
says
reference
right
is I
there. It
reclaim my
says
time. I reclaim my time.
says it
The
in
source, I
hemisphere
reclaim
differences
my
of
Mike.
volume
I
metric
reclaim my
ocean.
time.
Okay. Pause real quick.
You don't have
And
the study in
then
front of you.
I
wait,
do,
pause real
and
quick, and
doesn't
then
reference sex.
continue.
Yeah, the source doesn't reference biological sex. It does not reference sex differences in the brain during the fetal period. It just references normal fetal growth with regard to MRI measurements of brain volume and how the brain regions develop between the period of 18 to 39 weeks. It has nothing to do with sexual dimorphism. Mike is respectfully lying about what is contained in the source.
Okay, we
No.
have to stop right there. Now we're going to move on to the second round of cross-examination. Mike, you're going to get 5 minutes. It starts when you say your first word.
Yeah. So, Edna, do you think that in order to know something, we have to have a conclusive evidence of it?
To know of something, no. I think in order to make
Oh.
definitive claims about things, I
Okay,
think
so I reclaim my time. So everything you just stated about everything you just stated before was nonsense. That I have to have conclusive data to know something.
no. So I just want to clarify my statement. My statement is that in order for you to make definitive claims about things, like making the statement that there is a factual neurobiological basis for gender identity, that you would need to have definitive proof of. Saying that, for example,
I reclaim my time. What do you mean by proof?
Pardon?
What do you mean by proof?
It just needs to provide evidence or to provide proving or to establish a fact or truth of something, essentially.
No, that's
you
not
asked me for my reduction of the word. Saying no is not.
That's not what proof is. Well, this is why you're being confused, right? Because evidence is not the same thing as proof. We don't look at proof in the realms of science. Mostly, it's mostly the realms of logic and math. However, do you agree that I don't need proof, just evidence of something in order to have to make a claim about something being true?
A definitive claim. You're making a definitive claim that
What do you mean
gender identity.
What do you mean definitive claim?
Yeah, you made a claim that it is proven factually that there is a neurological basis for gender identity, and then provided a source that actually had nothing to do with the statement. And also, just to clarify, there's a difference between sufficient evidence and just evidence. There can be circumstantial evidence that is only true in particular instances, and then you have sufficient evidence to prove.
I reclaim my time. No. So again, we have sufficient evidence because of the cumulative data. So you're looking at one study and go, oh, that study's bad. But you're forgetting the dozens and dozens of papers that demonstrate that the sexual differentiation of the brain. Right? I have multiple other studies. You're just looking at one
study doesn't prove it.
Well, another one called the sexual differentiation of the human brain.
Can we concede that the first study reference has nothing to do with sexual dimorphism?
It does. If you look at the actual
can you show
paper.
it? Can you show it?
No, this is not your time. This is my time.
The host did say that he had
the
opportunity
I
to
reclaim
prove.
my time. I reclaim my time here.
Is reclaiming?
So yeah. So at the end of the day, you are just denying the science. You're rejecting the entire scientific consensus.
You haven't proven the consensus.
Do you acknowledge that the scientific consensus is in my favor, that there is a neurobiological basis behind gender identity?
No. There is not a neurological. There is not a. I'm answering you. There is no neurobiological basis that is proven or conclusive. There are hypotheses. Sorry,
my time.
Sorry,
I reclaim my time.
He's reclaiming.
Okay, you're rejecting the scientific consensus, right? The Endocrine Society agrees. And this is an organization backed by thousands of experts who agree that there is a neurobiological basis behind gender identity.
You have yet to provide a source to that effect.
All you're doing is denying science.
You're not actually providing science.
No, I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time.
He's reclaiming.
All you're doing, you're providing a valid criticism and scientific criticism. You're just pretending I'm wrong because I don't meet your own standards that are subjective to you. That's not a scientific criticism. You're going against the consensus for no good reason. We also have an analytic review, a mega-analysis, which looked at hundreds of trans people and found, again, meaningful brain differences between cis men and trans women. So again, it's called the Neuroanatomy of Transgender Identity, a mega-analytic study in 2021. This further demonstrates that my case is true. Okay, anyway. Now, when you say, I want to talk about before, when you reduced, are you going to reduce womanhood just down to someone's organs, or is there more to womanhood than just that?
This question was already answered.
I didn't get a clear answer for you.
You did. I said that it is definitive. It is only defined by biology, and then there are associative aspects that apply socially.
What do you mean? There are other aspects to womanhood than just sex.
But they're not definitive. That's the statement.
What do you mean? What do you mean by definitive?
I just explained they don't provide necessary conditions and or criteria for the category. So necessary conditions for
what's the necessary condition for being female?
The necessary conditions are genetic. So for males and females, there are genetic necessary conditions that allow you to fall into either of the two reproductive strategies. So I'll give you for male.
What is the one single trait that all females have?
There isn't one single. It's a conjunct of genetic traits.
Oh, okay. So there is no single necessary trait.
There are necessary.
It's a cluster. You're using
there are necessary.
No, I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time.
Yep.
You are using a cluster concept for female, because you're associating 3 or 4 different parts of a female reproductive system to determine sex. So you're using a cluster concept just as I am, and you're saying I can't do it? How?
Okay.
That's a special pleading.
That's incorrect. That's not.
We're going to have to stop right there, guys. Now we're going to move on to Edna's 5-minute cross-examination. It's going to start whenever you say your first word.
Okay. I just want to clarify that I'm not using a cluster concept because cluster concepts don't have necessary conditions, even conjunctively. I'm giving you a conjunct of necessary conditions, just to clarify that are genetic. It doesn't mean it's a cluster concept because the cluster concept uses sufficient conditions conjunctively, not necessary ones. So you actually mischaracterize what a cluster concept is. Cluster concepts don't have conjunctive necessary conditions, they have conjunctive sufficient conditions. I'm assuming you know the difference between necessary and sufficient conditions. Now, I'll give you the necessary conditions just to clarify before I move on to critiquing your position. To be male, you need, in order to be male, the necessary conditions are a functioning sex-determining region gene of the Y chromosome in conjunction with complete or majoritative androgen receptivity and or the upregulation of an analogous or homogeneous gene in conjunction with complete or majoritative androgen receptivity. With that being said, you're yet to prove in your source that you listed originally, which I'm not going to let you run away from. The source that you provided about the MRI data does not have anything to do with sexual dimorphism in the brain. I'd like for you to point to the page and paragraph where that study titled, let me just pull up the title again for you, where the study titled,
yeah, it's called, I'll give it to you. It's called cerebellar hemispheric asymmetry. You cut me off. That's why I couldn't say it, but now I can say it.
Sorry, where is that in the study?
Oh my gosh, cerebellar hemispheric asymmetry.
What does that have to, where does it reference sex? I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time. I'm reclaiming my time. I'm asking you to prove that your study has to do with sexual dimorphism and gender identity. Those two words are not used in the study.
That's not what I said.
I reclaim my time.
He's reclaiming.
Please listen to the question. Your study titled "The Complex Trajectories of Brain Development in the Healthy Fetus." Where does it state in that study that it has to do with gender identity and sexual dimorphism?
Oh, so now you're moving the goalpost.
I'm not moving the goalpost. I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time. Your source, the original source that you gave, was complex trajectories of brain development.
Which has to do with sex.
I reclaim my time.
He's reclaiming.
Where does it reference sexual dimorphism?
Cerebellar hemispheric asymmetry has also been noted in infancy and later adulthood with regional differences in cerebellar GM between males and females.
Where in the study is that located? Show it.
If you read the actual study, it's called cerebellar.
Can you show it on screen? Show it on screen from that study.
Oh my God, bro. You're so pathetic.
Show it on screen. And what I'd like you to do when you show it on camera is to show the title of that source and scroll down in the same source and then show it. So show us the title first, please. The title. Show us the title of the source that you're reading. The title.
It's the same one, sir.
No, go up to the top. Okay,
it's the same one. Relax, bro.
Now go down to the bottom and show us where it references sexual differences.
Right there, female.
Hemispheric asymmetry of the cerebellum has also been known in infancy and later adulthood with regional differences in cerebellar GM between males and females.
Okay,
in
beautiful.
Adults and infants, so you concede that I was right?
Sure. I was asking you to
All right, thank you. Thank you for conceding.
Okay, beautiful. Now, with regard to the sexual differences, right? Are they how do we know that they correlate to gender identity?
All right, so how we know that gender identity is correlated with the brain is because we look at people's brains and we see that the parts that light up with respect to how they feel about themselves and their bodily perceptions. And we have dozens and dozens of papers on this that show this.
I'm sorry, how does this prove a correlation? How do we determine that these parts of the brain light up with regard to their gender
Look
identity?
at the MRI. Oh my gosh! Look, this is, you're not giving a scientific critique, right?
I
How we
am.
do it is by looking at their brains, looking at the parts that light up, look at the networks that are associated with identity that we know from previous background neuroscientific knowledge, and then we recognize, yeah, there's a correlative case to be made here that the brain has a lot to do with gender identity. This is why it's the consensus amongst neuroscientists.
I reclaim my time. I reclaim my
consensus.
time. You need to provide a source indicating that they're functionally different, right? Because gender identity would be a function of the brain, not just a structure. You're proving structural differences, not functional differences. And you
Yes.
prove that these differences are functional.
So do you agree that when, if I were to like impact my brain somehow, that there would be a functional difference there?
I reclaim my time. Answer the question directly, please.
The answer is you don't need to have a functional study that says the brain part causes this to function differently. This is background knowledge.
I reclaim my time. Is gender identity a function? Is gender identity a function or a structure?
Neither. It's an identity. It's a deep
Not a,
sense of.
I'm sorry. Is identity not a function? I reclaim my time. Is identity not a function of the brain?
It's a way. Yes, you're right. It's a way.
Okay, so it's not okay. Great. So it's not neither. You concede that then it's actually a function. So you have to prove now that these dimorphic differences are functional. Can you prove
I don't have
functional?
to prove it.
Yes, you do. I
Okay,
reclaim my time. I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time.
Pause.
If you're saying that gender identity is a function of the brain,
We
and
have
these parts of the
evidence.
brain are, I reclaim my time. And you're saying that gender identity has it is proven in these brain structures. You would have to prove
Yeah,
a functional differences. You'd have
Yeah,
to prove functional
so-
differences, not structural ones. So can you prove?
No, that's false. I don't have to prove a functional difference. Just like I don't have to prove that if my brain were to get weakened, I would have a functional difference. This is
Okay, we have to
basic
stop
knowledge.
there. We have to stop there. Now we're moving on to the final statements. That was 2 rounds of cross-examination. Now we're moving on to closing statements. Mike Brigandi, you're going to get 3 minutes on the clock. And give me 1 sec to set up the timer. It's going to start whenever you say your first word.
Yeah. So again, Nate's entire position is scientifically dull. There's nothing to it because we don't have to prove functional differences. We have correlative data. That's enough, right? We don't have a causal mechanism for freaking autism. We don't even know what causes autism, but we have evidence of correlative data that it happens. And that's how we can suggest that autism is caused by some things in the brain. We know that brain lesions can affect the functioning of the brain. And so it's basic consensus amongst neuroscientists that the way the brain is structured gives rise to its function. There's no study that proves this, just like there's no study that proves gravity is caused by something. We don't know the cause, but we still can make a correlative case. Yeah, that my opponent couldn't even define what a car is, means his entire linguistic framework is just garbage. Obviously, we can define what a car is. I showed him the evidence of sexual dimorphism in infancy. He just rejects it, supposedly. He rejects the scientific consensus. He rejects any data that even remotely challenges his view. He's moving the goalpost, and what he does is he sets the bar so high because most people are not scientifically literate. They don't know that you don't have to prove causation to have evidence in science. We rarely do that in science. But we have evidence. Sex versus gender associated brain structure, right? Neurobiological characteristics associated with gender identity. These are all studies that demonstrate my point. And they all form the consensus. They charge the consensus that gender identities come from the brain. And by the way, my argument actually is not contingent solely on the neuroscientific data. Remember, it's just trans women have woman identities. That identity is something that we could observationally understand. We all have gendered roles, gender expressions, and gender identities. This is something that's blatantly obvious, and he's just rejecting that, saying, no, it has to do with your sex. He's reducing people down to their sexual organs and their genitalia. This is absurd. There's more to me that makes me a man than just my penis. It's more of that than that, right? It has to do with far more than just that. And so, there's also the ethical side to this, right? Acknowledging trans women as women saves their lives. Enabling access to gender affirming care saves people's lives. And so his view, which is inherently dogmatic and inherently bigoted and unwilling to listen to the science, is only in the long term going to harm more people and make the world even more bigoted. And so he didn't remotely attack my position. He did not remotely challenge the science. He did nothing but just say no, no, no. I don't believe you. No, prove function, prove function. When this is not a scientific
Finish with
approach.
your last sentence.
I'm done.
Okay. Thank you for your closing statement. Edna, now you get 3 minutes on the clock to do your final statement. It starts when you say your first word.
Okay. To close this debate, I would like to highlight that I vehemently disagree that my opponent has actually provided sufficient neurological data or neurobiological data to indicate his claims. His claims simply highlight structural differences between the brains of males and females, not functional differences between males and females. Functional differences have to do with the way that the brain behaves or the way that the brain carries out a particular role. Structural differences simply have to do with the way that the part of the brain is formed. For example, things like volume and size. My opponent has failed to sufficiently prove his claim that gender identity has a neurobiological basis, but instead has provided structural dimorphic differences between the brains of males and females and not functional ones. He has not proven that the differences are functional and have to do with gender identity, but instead has emotionally stated that I'm just denying scientific consensus without providing said consensus, right? There is no scientific consensus that gender identity is located in the brain, because although there are subtle differences or group differences between transgender and quote cisgender people, the findings are inconsistent, they overlap and are not diagnostic. There is no clear neurological sign or signature for gender identity, and no causal mechanism has been demonstrated. So my opponent has failed to demonstrate his claim. Additionally, it is not a reduction to refer to men and women as adult human males and adult human females. Actually, you mentioned ethics, and ethically, I think it's best to define women as a sex class because it acknowledges and creates space for me to fight for their sex-based rights, something that women historically has struggled with, something that women historically and systemically have been oppressed on the basis of. So acknowledging that women are adult human females not only allows for me to protect their sex-based spaces and their sex-based rights, but also allows for me to acknowledge who they truly are without reducing them to social norms, gender roles, as well as neurobiological behaviors. Thank you.
Cool. Are you concluding your closing statement there?
I concede my time. Thanks.
Okay, cool. Well, there you have it, guys. That's going to be the conclusion of the debate. It was an amazing debate on the topic of trans women are women. If Edna and Mike can stick around, we are going to do audience questions like I normally do for like these debates. Audience, you can come up and you can do questions, comments, concerns, or critiques. We'll take as many as we can before they have to go. Please be respectful. I don't want any like disrespectful comments or anything. Let's try to keep it professional. And with that, I am going to do an audience vote. I'm not declaring a winner for this debate, but I'm just going to do the audience vote and then give the results. And it's up to the audience who won. The audience vote can be not necessarily so accurate because there might be like more fans of one creator than there is the other. So take it with a grain of salt. But with that, yeah, we're going to start bringing up audience members to ask questions, comments, concerns, or critiques. And Edna and Mike, yeah, you guys can respond to them while I get the poll ready. So I'm looking at we got like 23 people lined up, so I'll try to make this fast. Hey, Max, welcome to the panel. Feel free to ask your question or give a comment, question, concerns, or critique.
Yeah, this was a wonderful debate. I really wanted to ask a question to the both of them because I wasn't here initially for, I would say, like the first half, so I may have not gotten a clear answer to this because I've been looking for it from the both of them because I've seen them do lots of debates on gender and trans women specifically, whether or not they are or not women. What do you guys use to differentiate the two categories that would make each one distinct? Because I know we have the term man and we have woman. To Mike, I would love to ask, what do you use to differentiate the two categories? And the same thing to Edna as well.
Typicalities, right? So that's how we categorize things for the most part. We use cluster concepts, folks. We don't use definitive things that only one category can have. We don't use exclusivities, right? We don't use this with anything. And so we use it. I differentiate them based on typicalities, right? Men, male typical qualities. Women are more female typical qualities, and this actually encapsulates everything about who women are. Okay, and so everything Nate said was just about you have to have a necessary condition is just nonsense.
And really quick before you guys continue, the poll is up. It's this little blue clipboard in the corner of the screen. Everybody that's in here, all 783 people, feel free to vote for who you thought won in that poll. And thank you guys for being here. Thank you for all the gifts. And if you can, please tap your screen, like the live, and share with whoever you might think is interested. Continue, Max.
Yeah. So like, I want Eden to speak because I was asking to both of them.
Okay, sure. So I defined males and females, as I said before, as adult human males and adult human females, sex-based difference. So females are any organisms that are of or primarily indicating or denoting the sex that produces large gametes, and men are adult human males, meaning any adult humans who are of or primarily denoting the capacity to produce small gametes. Mike's definition of typicalities doesn't really address much because the societal typicalities between men and women, as I stated before, are largely stereotypical and don't actually give you an accurate impression of men and women. They actually oversimplify men and women. If we were to do this with any other category, it would actually be quite absurd. So for example, if I said black people typically go to family barbecues, or black people typically listen to Tupac Shakur, or black people typically do a particular set of social actions, it would just sound a little bit racist, or just wouldn't be actually encapsulating the entire category. I'd just be excluding lots of black people and then not defining them accurately. So when he uses societal typicalities to define men and women, he's excluding lots of women and men, and he's also using a lot of stereotypes. So that's my response.
Okay, and with that, we do have to get to the other guests, but thank you, Max, for coming up, and feel free to come back to my panel anytime. If you follow me, I'll follow you, but thank you for being here.
Of course, have a nice one to all of you guys.
You too.
To make it clear, I do have to leave in about 4 minutes because I was supposed to host a live at 7 to just talk with my followers. I am sick. I do have bronchitis. I'm supposed to be resting. So I only have about 4 minutes remaining before I have to go and then go and get my rest after I do host my live after this. So
Okay.
Just letting you know. Apologize for the time.
And that's totally fine. We'll do like 2 more guests, and then you can go ahead. Cease really wanted to come up, but let's see what he has to say. Go ahead, Cease.
No, I'm going to be very brief. Nate, I wanted to challenge you to have another debate on the same platform against me this time.
Okay, sure.
Are you willing to do that?
Sure.
Okay, then in that case, just host. You can set it up, and let me know what day works for him, and we can figure it out. Would you be fine doing it next week? Would that work?
I'll let you know what time because I have a few stuff coming up that I planned with my live viewers, so I don't know what time I'll be available for the following couple of weeks, but I'll let you know.
Okay, just let me know because I think I can show everybody listening to this conversation that you're just completely incorrect in the way you framed it. That actually your perspective and definitions is completely inconsistent with how even you navigate your life. So I like a chance to show why that's the case in a setting where we're not over talking each other. So
let's keep it professional.
Absolutely. All right, thanks for letting me up. I just wanted to throw that challenge out there. So don't keep me waiting too long. All right, let me know.
Sure. Host, I'm gonna drop and come back on a different account. My phone's about to die and the mic is plugged into it, so I'm gonna just jump up on my iPad. So I'm just dropping for 10 seconds just to return.
Totally fine.
Remainder of the 2 minutes. Give me a second, please.
And let me bring up the next guest. Let's see. We have like a ton of people in this guest request. Okay, let me do. Okay, I randomly picked somebody. Hey, give me 1 second. We'll get to you.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. I'm waiting for Edna to like load in. I might have to. Okay, you're good now, Edna? No, we're just waiting for him. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for tapping the screen. I guess continue to tap the screen. Thank you for all the gifts. Thank you for gifting the debaters. Clearly, they have done their research in regards to this. And yeah, like I love that I'm able to host these debates. You good, Edna?
Yeah, I think I'm here. Can you hear me, or am I cutting out?
Yeah, we can hear you. Okay. So the conserve.
It's fine. Tina's fine.
Okay, I'll call you Tina. My bad.
There you go.
Thank you for being here. Do you have a question for anybody?
Sure. I have, well, first up, constructive criticism, and then I have a question for the both of them. First, the constructive criticism is in the beginning, Mike had brought up it wasn't a really good analogy of the car thing of why Edna Mode couldn't define car. There is no actual one. So if you could also define car for me, that'd be great. Since you said it was insane that he couldn't because you can't really define it, you could describe the parts of a car because cars are very different between trucks and cars. So I think that had nothing to do with the conversation. It was irrelevant. Also, the question between the both of them is, can they give me one definitive characteristic of a woman that doesn't apply to any man?
Yeah, this is a misunderstanding of how definitions work. I don't know why I have to explain this to you guys like 10,000 times. We don't use definitive features that are necessary in every way we categorize objects, right? Obviously, a car is going to be subjective to the context. A car is going to be an automobile that carries passengers, right? We can say that's a car versus a truck, which is going to have distinct features, but based on typicalities, right? Trucks typically are bigger, but not all trucks are bigger. Some cars might be bigger than trucks. The point is that how we categorize things is based on cluster concepts. We don't base it on definitive features all the time. So your version of linguistics is just completely confused.
Sure, but you didn't define what a car is, and you didn't answer the other question. That's what is one definitive characteristic of being a woman.
An automobile that carries passengers.
Okay, sure. So can you define what...
I couldn't do that, but I could, right? See how your linguistics is just completely ridiculous?
But you just said it's subjective, so I don't understand. If that's your definition of a woman...
Words are subjective. They're just contextual, right?
So if you give your subjective definition of a car, it'd be relevant because that's your subjective definition. So we believe a car is, versus if Edna would have a different one.
If I go to another planet, if I go to another fucking galaxy, their version of a car is going to be different. It's subjective, right? How we give words meaning. It's subjective.
But also,
I don't know why you guys can't understand this.
Okay, but let's not try to make it a secondary debate. Tina, do you have any final questions, comments, concerns, or thoughts?
Yeah, sure. It was the final question of, can both of them define or give me one definitive characteristic that all women have that no man has?
There's no such thing.
Let's do that.
There's no such thing.
But mine is sex. Women are female, men are male.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Edna, welcome down Mode. I appreciate y'all. He won.
Female is not a trait, right? Female is a cluster of traits by his view. So that's also confused.
It's a cluster of cluster of necessary genetic genetic necessary conditions that lead to a person having the quality or state of being female. Yeah.
So it's not one necessary trait. It's just a cluster of traits.
It's a cluster of necessary traits, which means it's not a cluster concept. It's just a set of necessary. You can have a bunch of necessary conditions.
So what are the four necessary traits?
I just leave you ladies to it.
Hey guys, well, we do have to get to the other guests.
Okay. So I want to ask Edna while Mike made a direct correlation between 2 to 3 different papers with because that second paper that you tried to debunk, all he was proving is that we can analyze the differences between male and female fetus brains, right? That's all he was proving. He did not once did he claim anything about the difference between sex and gender from that one paper. He tried to correlate from all papers. You made a distinctive question that he had to prove, and he furthered that evidence.
No, he didn't.
He did, because he referenced the other papers. Because
again,
can
I explain how he didn't?
I'm not done.
Wait, let him finish. Go ahead, Misfit.
So, because this happens all throughout medical science, right? So you can categorize cancers to tumors. You have to further then categorize tumors down to lymphomas, hematomas, etc., right? This happens throughout science, right? And he's already proven there's a definitive multiple papers from decades upon decades that back up the evidence. You want a conclusive thing, but there's not a single paper out there that has conclusive evidence for anything. Even the law of relativity, right? There's no conclusive paper for that. But we have enough data where we can back that up. That's the whole point. We have enough data from multiple different neuroscientists that can back this up. The same thing for any sort of field of science.
Yeah,
so I don't understand why you have the ability to turn down the obvious correlations.
Are you done?
Are you asking your question?
I don't know when the question is going to finish.
Yeah, my question is, why are you turning down basic correlational science? Like that's That's how we literally go through science. We have to find correlations from different physicians from different
His
types.
correlational studies prove structural differences, not functional differences. I highlighted this if you were listening. Clearly you weren't. Structural differences have to do with things like size and volume, which I already admit that there are differences structurally between the sexes as far as their brains are concerned. But functionally, they aren't proven to be different. That's what Mike would have to prove in order to make the claim that they have to do with gender identity. Because gender identity, I'm not done. Gender identity is a function of the brain, not a structure. You'd have to prove that the structure influences that function. That's what you'd have to do.
Okay,
and
so
he
you
did not provide. And I'm still talking. He didn't provide.
Let Edna finish.
He didn't provide sufficient evidence that these parts of the brain are causal to the way that the person identifies, or prove, or are based, or are the reason for people's gender identity. He just pointed out differences between males and female brains structurally. You need to bridge the gap between structure and function in order to prove that it has to do with gender identity. That's the reason I turned down the study.
Okay, so with that logic, we would have to then redefine the entire diagnostic system when it comes to medicine.
No, we
Because,
wouldn't.
yes, you do. Can you prove to me the functionality and structure from a lymphoma right now? Can you find me a paper? Can you find me a definitive paper that can do that?
That can do what?
Can you find me, because the evidence in this thing that you want from Mike, can you do the exact same thing for me for a lymphoma? Think something that we know exists.
I haven't done much research on lymphomas. I'm not sure that I could, but I'm sure if I looked into it, I would be able to.
And with that,
That's the answer.
You're asking me to justify something. You're asking me to justify something that I haven't.
You can't prove that gravity functions.
Guys,
Can I
please?
Can I just finish, please?
Wait, yeah. So really quick. So Edna's gonna finish, and then we can't go too long into like little debates. We do have a lot of people online. So go ahead, Edna, and finish.
Yeah.
And then actually, I'll let Mike respond, and then we'll go to the next person. So go ahead, Edna.
I was just going to say I haven't done extensive medical research on lymphomas, so I wouldn't have a stance on it right now. But I'm sure that if I were to look into it, you'd be able to find what causes lymphomas or what is the cause of those things. But yet again, Mike's claim is that there is a neurological basis or reason that people identify as a particular gender. He has not proven that. All he's shown are structural differences between the brains, not functional differences that have anything to do with the way that a person identifies.
All right, Mike, go ahead and respond, and then we'll move on to the next guest.
Yeah, there's no study that proves the function of something, right? We're looking at correlative cases. There's no study that proves that gravity functions the way that we know, right? It's just going to be based on correlative cases. There's no study that proves that if I smack my face caused my pain, right? There's no study on that. But we have enough correlative data. We have enough consistency amongst the people who smack their heads and they feel the pain. That's how we make the case that there's a functional change by structural differences. The same, especially with the brain, because of things like lesion data. We know that the brain lesions can affect the functioning of the brain, right? Brain tumors can affect the function of the brain. We can't prove it, but we have evidence that it's the case. Enough of it to go, yeah, the tumor is probably giving you those headaches, right? Like, this is absurd to set the bar so fucking high that, no science exists because everything has to be proven with one study. Yeah, that's so unscientific. That's garbage.
Okay. With that, we do have to move on to the other guests that we have in line. And yeah, Edna, whenever you need to go, feel free to. Thank you for being here.
I'll take one more person and then I'll go because everyone's asking me to.
Okay, yeah, that totally works. And thank you both for being here and being on my platform. I mean, like,
For hosting us.
yeah, like you guys have clearly done research into this topic, and we've literally had like 800 people in this live. That's a very huge accomplishment. People really tuned in for your debate. Some people were saying that we should have got judges instead of just like audience vote. Maybe you guys can run this back again and we can get judges, but it's up to you guys. I would be happy to get that done as quickly as possible. And yeah, we can get judges and like actually like settle like an actual winner. But with that, we can move on to our next guest. Thank you for being up here, Misfit. Come back anytime. We already follow each other, and yeah, you're always welcome.
Perfect, thank you. W Mike.
And so we're gonna get our next guest. We're gonna do one more. People were requesting for Tony Tiger, so let's see. But yeah,
What's
welcome,
up?
Tony Tiger. Good to have
Thank you. Good to be here. Thank you. My question is for Mike. Mike, are you familiar with the 4 types of proof? And if so, what types of proofs qualified or were being used in the evidence that you were trying to present?
So we don't deal with proofs in science, right? That's mathematical, logical analysis. In science, we deal with things like p-values and Cohen's d effect sizes, things like that, in which we look at the available evidence and we build a case, a credence level increases, and we get to an approximate truth based on the evidence. So that's what I demonstrated through the studies I mentioned. We're looking at brains, we're looking at the way the function, the way the brain's functioning, and that changes the way
There are actually 4 types of proof when in used in philosophical and argumentation, which includes logic. And if you're talking about math is just another form of logic. So there are 4. Are you familiar with them? I'll tell you them if you don't know.
Go ahead.
Okay, so there is what's called a rationalist proof, an empiricist proof, a transcendental proof, and a pragmatist proof, right? And so the reason I was asking you which of the 4 does your evidence that you're presenting, what does it fall under, right? Because then that tells us, right, as interlocutors, how to deal with the information being presented, right? Because if, let's say it's a rational,
it's probably going to adhere to more of like an empiricist approach. So yeah.
Okay, so some
data,
data, and then
it matters. It doesn't matter.
Okay, so well, I mean, it kind of does matter, because if we are to be honest interlocutors, right, and you present an empiricist type proof, which could deal with studies, and it could be witness accounting, let's say, of some event in history, well, then I would have to respond in kind. I would have to respond with a counter empiricist proof. If you gave a rationalist type proof, meaning something that dealt with some sort of formal logic or inference rule, I would have to counter that with an inference rule, or I'd have to discount the inference rule being used. So it would let me know.
Look,
as an interlocutor.
there's no reason why I'd have to adhere to any particular form of proof. I don't need to achieve proof. I can achieve evidence, and that's what
you can't be
done.
taken serious as an interlocutor, sir. I'm sorry.
What do you mean by proof?
Right. Well, we're talking about like how we give evidence or substantiation. There are 4 types.
Okay. What do you mean by What do you mean by proof, though?
Okay. Well, the type of proof that you're going to give is either going to be empirical, which is going to deal with sense data.
What do you mean by proof? What do you mean by proof?
Proof, evidence, proof, evidence sequencing, accounting.
Oh, okay. So it's evidence. Right. So proof is just evidence. Okay. So yeah,
well, that's another way you can look at it. Sure.
I don't know why you're just rejecting the science here. I have cited 3 or 4.
I'm not saying I'm rejecting the science.
I need that achieve p-values that are sufficient to they're peer-reviewed. That constitute scientific articles.
Well, I'm not saying I necessarily reject your proof. I just need to know the nature.
These are scientific articles that demonstrate something beyond chance. That's science. That's evidence.
No one is necessarily saying they reject it, but they need to know.
So then, is that evidence I provided?
Well, I mean, I don't know what type, because you won't specify.
Did I provide any type of evidence?
You said you now just more so clarified.
Did I provide any type of evidence?
Okay. So really quick, so this is sort of turning
yes
into
or no?
But yeah,
according to you, yes.
And then
so then I provided evidence.
According to you, yes.
Okay. But not to you. Why not?
Well, because I'm not convinced that you even know what evidence is.
You're not convinced. It's not an argument.
Hold on, real quick.
I'm not convinced you know what evidence is.
Wait, guys, hold on. So let's answer that last question. Why do you think that he didn't provide evidence? And then we do got to move on to the next guest.
Right. Well, because if you're going to provide any kind of sequencing, proof, evidence, right, well, then there has to be a train of logic or something that substantiates it, right? And if we're going to be honest interlocutors, right, I would need to know, like if I was countering it, right, I would need to know what to counter it with. If he was presenting some sort of formal system that dealt with inference rules, I'd have to discount the inference rule, either premise by premise or statement by statement, or I would have to counter it with a superior one. So that lets me know.
Cares about this.
That lets me know as an interlocutor how to deal with
data that there is evidence for what I'm suggesting. Everything you just said is babble.
Okay, empiricist, you're just saying we saw this, we think this. That's all you're saying then. With
all right, guys, we do. Have
Congratulations, dude. You're dumb.
You're just rejecting data. Wow.
You're dumb. You're rejecting logic.
Wait, hold on, guys. Okay, so maybe later you guys can like set up a debate, and I would gladly host it. We can fill up my calendar with debates, but yeah, we do have to move on to the next guest.
All right, thank you for having me.
Yeah, come back anytime. If you follow me, I'll follow you. And thank you for being here.
All right. Peace out.
Okay, I'm good.
Oh, you have to go, Edna?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm
It's not letting me drop it. You might have to kick me.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
You might need proof for that first.
Might. but Edna, thank
Where's
you for
proof
being
of the
here.
button? Where's
If
proof
you
of
gotta
the
go,
button?
you gotta. I'll say. Oh, Edna, if you gotta go, you can go ahead. Thank you for being here. And maybe I can talk to you later about doing another match with Mike, and we can get judges for that one that you both agree on. But yeah.
Maybe. I mean, Edna doesn't know what evidence is. They don't understand what science is. So it's hard to talk to somebody who doesn't know what science is.
Well, guys,
I think you just want to
Prove
science.
things, who thinks that you have to have conclusive proof in every study. That's just nonsense. Nobody takes you
It's not
seriously.
it's not what I asked for, but okay. All right. Anyways, host, thank you for having
That's
me.
really what you said this entire debate.
You did
You
it.
don't prove it. You didn't prove it. That's
didn't.
just
all right. But thank you for being here, Edna.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
we'll talk about it in DMs.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. Mob, you're the next guest, so you can go ahead and give your questions, comments, concerns, or critiques. And then also, Mike, if you feel like you need to go at any time, feel free to say so. And yeah, you're free to go at like any time you want to.
I like questions. Keep them coming.
Yeah, go ahead, Mob.
My question was going to be for Edna, but so it's okay. I'm just going to drop. But awesome debate. Good job, Mike. That was super interesting.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to
Go ahead. And then Axiom, you can go ahead if you have a question. Oh, and Mods, let's chill on bringing guests up. I want to keep it like calm, but later I might like start doing a panel to bust through all the guests. But let's hold up real quick. But go ahead, Axiom.
Yeah, so my question would be, Mike, if somebody provided you with like a sound argument or syllogism proving that T woman are not woman, given the utility that things like gender affirming care promote, or just given the utility that you could maybe get from still saying these arguments and conveying these ideas, would you still convey these ideas and arguments that you currently hold to if you were to find out that they were false, or would you drop the arguments?
Yeah, so in my opening, I made that statement where I said there's an ethical case to be made here. Even if what I'm saying is invalid, there's still the ethical side, and it's such that we should respect trans people in the case that we should affirm who they are and recognize them as women, because that's what helps them save their lives. It actually helps them. It actually enables access to healthcare that they need. So yes, we should affirm trans people, as humans, and as women.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions, or is that it?
No, that's pretty much it.
Oh, thank you for coming up. If you follow me, I'll follow you. And yeah, we'll move on to our next guest.
I was hoping to ask both parties a question, but Mike, appreciate your time and sticking around. So I guess this is just for you. I'm really focused on epistemic humility and how that enables like etiquette in a debate, or like emotional stability. I don't know if you have any points on that, or I guess my question would be, how important do you think epistemic humility is in sort of stabilizing our emotions and deploring etiquette-based arguments?
Epistemic humility. I don't see where I've been epistemically arrogant. I don't see.
Oh, I didn't say you were. I was just like I said. My question was going to be to both parties. I was just curious if you find it important or like not important. Like some people don't see it as important, like that they can make rational arguments without epistemic humility, and other people, like for myself, I find my own emotions. Go ahead.
I think it's important. Yeah.
Okay. Like, do you see the pattern in your own emotional stability when you cling to epistemic humility, or is that just I'm wondering if other people see that pattern?
My emotional stability is fine. I don't know what you're talking about.
Again, I'm not trying to criticize your emotional stability. I'm just for me, I just see the link between epistemic humility and emotional stability. And like when it comes to the etiquette of debate, I saw multiple interruptions, and I was just curious if that strategically.
Bro. Interruptions? Come on. Interruptions happen every debate. Stop it. This is absurd.
Okay. All right. Thanks for your time, man.
Yep. Thank you for coming up, Logic Troll. It's good to see you, man. Jambar, you can go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I'm finally on the panel, but okay. So my question is really about the one claim you made that it's kind of agreed upon if you have a difference in structure, then that will ground a difference in function, or it's not really relevant to talk about functional differences. The first thing to say to this is I agree in one direction. If there's a change in function, there'll have to be some change in structure. But what I don't agree is that a change in structure always indicates a change in function. And in particular, different racial groups have different structures in their brain. Would you say that's a difference in function? And would you say that neuroscientists agree that since...
Look, everybody's brain's different, obviously. The point is that where it matters, there's very subtle differences in brain structures, in particular the hypothalamus and the thalamus and the cortical thickness layers. Those particular parts are heavily associated with bodily perception and the gendered aspects that give rise to our identities. And so that's where that's what we're studying, those specific parts. And that is why we can then infer, yes, there are going to be functional differences in those because of the structures. And this is background knowledge in neuroscience, right? You know, that brain lesions can affect how the brain functions, tumors, things like that. I mean, this is just the basics of neuroscience, that it's the consensus that this is the case.
There's no, let me correct you, there's
but I
no
agree with you. It
consensus.
doesn't prove function. I agree with you. It doesn't prove function. That's a heavy task to come to.
So look, if in this case there is no effect on function, then what would you be showing? Is your view that gender is not largely informed by neurological functioning?
No, so in my opening, I literally said, the very first thing I said was, I gave a logical syllogism, right? For why trans women are women. It's not contingent solely on the neuroscience, right? You can forget all the science. You can throw away all the papers I gave. It's still going to be the case that trans women are women because that's their identity. And so
I'm interested in the claim you made about, I'm not interested in whatever you gave in your opening statement. I'm interested in a particular claim that there's neuroscientific grounding for their gender identity. And I'm particularly concerned about the piece of evidence you presented where you're saying that there's a structural difference. And that means something important for the gender identity. What I'm saying is that there's structural differences between different racial groups in different areas of the brain that we would consider important for different functions. And I do not necessarily think that means that there's some functional difference. And what would be important in determining gender identity wouldn't be if there's some like meaningless structural differences in brain patterns between the different sexes. It would be if there's some serious functional differences and it changes the way the brain actually works.
I don't think there's any evidence that between races there's a significant difference in the brain. I don't think.
Oh yes, there is. That's why there's a whole field. There's a whole field in the 1900s of phrenology that neuroscientists have worked to combat, that showing that the structural differences in the brain actually do not lead to functional differences.
Yeah, do you actually have any papers on this that demonstrate?
Sure. You can just look it up. It's pretty much widely known, but.
Or maybe you guys can see.
I haven't seen any evidence that there's a significant differences in the brain structures between races. By the way, what do you even mean by race? Right, that's a social category.
I'm not playing.
It's not a
dumb game.
thing.
I'm not playing these dumb games with like, what do you mean by race? Blah blah blah. We have this intuitive idea between race, ethnicity. More or less, we understand what it means. More or less, there are biological differences that.
I don't think there's any sufficient evidence. There's no sufficient evidence of what you're saying, but we do have sufficient evidence that gender identity is coming from the brain. This is why it's the medical and the scientific consensus amongst scientists, and not TikTokers.
You can just so.
But I guess what would be your finishing statements, Jambar? And we do need to get to the other guests.
Okay, sure. My finishing statement would be this: the first thing is like, if your position leads us to think that there are functional differences between how different races' brains operate, it should be rejected. It does lead to that sort of conclusion, so your position should be rejected. And secondly,
even if you were to
the structural differences can be found with a simple Google search, but I get that you want to move to the next guest. So
even if you were to find structural differences between races, that has no implications for their identity. There's no implications.
Okay, yeah, then the
for
structural
anything
differences
talking
you're
about.
pointing out
There
also
might
has
be
no
implications.
implications.
There might be implications for physiological things, but no identity. No, it's not like, for example, there's no part in my brain that says I'm Native American or I'm black. It doesn't exist, and so that's why it's not comparable as a category.
This is actually called begging the question.
Okay, but guys,
But-
maybe you can exchange like articles over that topic via DMs. But yeah, let me get to the next guest. But thank you for coming up, Jambar. And then people in the comments are telling me to bring up Rue. Who is that? But I mean that as respectfully as possible. What does his username look like? And yeah, I can bring him up. He'll be my next guest. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, welcome to the panel. It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me. So yeah, I just wanted to address a couple things with you, Mike, if that's okay. If you wanted to debate, Mike, I'm sure you and I could organize something because I actually do study neurology, as you seem to be like very, say you're well versed in. But I just wanted to bring up that the neurological consensus is not that gender identity is in the brain, despite multiple attempts to prove that it is. Most are still arguing that the male and female brain are overstated and methodologically weak. And I can give you some sources to this. Give me just 1 second. So the first source I can give you. So this is a systematic review of neuroimaging in transgender and cisgender individuals. And it said that there's not enough consistent evidence to show gender identity in the brain. And people's brains actually usually resemble their natal sex. And it's called Structural and Functional and Metabolic Brain Differences as a function of gender identity or sexual orientation, and the PMID is 339-56296. Then there's also Holmes, and Monks. They did a study in 2019 where they said that neuroscience studies are assuming too quickly about differences in the brain related to gender identity. And it's called Bridging Sex and Gender in Neuroscience by Shedding a Prior Assumption of Causality. And then, so those are the neurosciences. Mike, we can talk about it another day. I can send you these studies. We can talk about it. But then I also just wanted to ask a question, if that's okay.
Go for it.
Yeah, so the endocrine societies, right, the APA, the AMA, all these organizations, right? The American Urological Association, the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, the American College of Physicians, all these organizations, they state that gender identity or gender is more than just a sex. That's what their statement is. There's more to gender than just sex. Now,
sure, but that wasn't the claim I was addressing.
I agree with you that the data is there's a good amount of it, right? It's not like most scientists will say this, but I will say that it's the consensus that gender identity does have a neurobiological underpinning, especially from those organizations I mentioned to you. So, yeah,
sure, that's fine. I'll ask my question.
It's debatable what.
Sorry, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
It's debatable what the consensus is. I agree with you there, but I would say that there is evidence that the strong evidence that my case is correct.
I mean, I can acknowledge a correlation. Like I say, you and I can debate this at some point if you like, because you seem very versed in neurology. I'm currently doing a master's in it, so we can definitely have this conversation. But I want to get to my question because I know the people are asking me to. My question was, do you think that just because people think there needs to be necessary conditions to define something, that means they can define every and any word?
What?
So Nate
there
said
are several
that,
ways there are several categories of linguistics when we categorize things. There can be categories that require necessary conditions. There also are not categories that do that. Most categories of objects do not require necessary conditions. Games, cars, trucks, gender, none of these require necessary conditions. And so, yeah, does that answer your question?
kind of. I would just say that I think that even if we could acknowledge that some things don't need necessary conditions, to ask someone to define something that define something because they said that words do need necessary conditions when it's something you're asking them to define that isn't relevant to the conversation. I don't know why it tracks or how it came up, but that was it. But like I said, if you want to debate, Mike, I can DM you and we can definitely
very
talk about
relevant.
the
It was to
neurology.
show him. It was. I asked him specifically, does it apply to all categories of objects that you need a necessary condition? He said yes, and then I said, okay, well, define a car.
But that doesn't necessarily mean he knows all the conditions of every word.
Please listen to me. He couldn't define a fucking car. That's
Yeah,
a
that's my
problem.
point.
This is a
So
red
just-
flag. This is a red
Wait.
flag in your
But
view.
okay,
you
but
can't
even
define
if
a
he
fucking
could have,
car. That's
even
the
if he could have
problem
put it,
with
my
his
point is
logic.
more the
No,
fact that
no, stop. This is the problem with yours and his logics. They do not account for the nuances in linguistics or science or endocrinology or human behavioral research. Nothing. You guys just say, no, there's no evidence. Adult human female. This is absurd on your behalf.
Sure. Well, I acknowledge the correlation. You and I haven't like spoken about this directly, so you're just assuming my position. But it's like I say, just because someone says that words need necessary conditions, that doesn't mean they can define every word. So my point is more bringing up define car isn't like something that would need to be done in this conversation. But that's about it.
Yes,
but
it does.
we can talk
That's
another
exactly
time.
what needs to happen, right? I had to show him how absurd his view was. It was called a reductio.
Yeah,
But it was not like a reduction.
Yeah, but
Define
we
car.
get
You
to
couldn't
the
define
other
a
I'll drop. I'm
car.
sorry. The
That's a
host wants me to go.
reductio.
I'm sorry.
It's
Mike, we can
absurd
talk about it later.
to not be able to define what a
you're
car
totally
is.
But yeah, we can. I'll catch up with Mike. But thank you for having me, host. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Come back anytime. And
he can't define a car, but he can define a woman. It makes no sense, right?
Yeah. Here, let me see. I'm gonna bring the next guest up, and
Hello, thank you. I appreciate you for letting me up. So I had a question for Mike, and totally willing to hear you out on this. But first off, I want to start by saying, I wasn't here for like the whole science part, the studies. That's a whole other can of worms. I just want to talk about specifically your definition for woman. You define it based off the social and cultural typicalities, correct? Just to be sure.
I define a woman as a gender identity that aligns with female typicalities. These are going to be multifaceted, right? They're going to be behavioral attributes, hormonal attributes, neurobiological attributes, all of the above.
All of the above. Okay, so you don't base it anything like based on anything to do with social or cultural norms either, right?
Yes, I do. There's sociological attributes to women or men.
So you do base it some part in society, correct?
Yes, womanhood or manhood, these are societal constructs. Yes.
Okay, so you agree that these are societal constructs and that they do have social and cultural norms tied to them.
Yeah.
Okay. So if that's your stance, right? Like you do base it on typicalities, right? Social, cultural norms, neurological norms. Let me ask you this, just because I'm really curious. So, just so you're aware, social and cultural norms, they're personal like things, like to each person, right? Like so, for example, me, I'm born in America. I'm Floridian, right? You take a person from Japan, we're gonna have different social cultural norms, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't see how you could take something so personal and then go on to make a universal proposition such as trans women are women. Because, right, let's say we take the example I gave, the analogy, me, for example, a person from America versus a person from Japan who has like different social cultural norms or expectations for what a woman is based on like your own definition and view for it. If that person claims that a woman is something, let me finish connecting the dots real quick.
No,
let me land the plane. Let me at least land the plane. If I were to say that a trans woman or a woman is something different than the person who holds different societal and cultural norms than me, I don't think that statement would be wrong because it's a personal belief within my societal and cultural standards, right? So to say that trans women are women and then take it from a societal and cultural standpoint, which is personal to each person, you seem to be connecting this universal stance when really, if you're taking it from a personal view, you can't really affirm or deny the proposition that trans women are women to anybody. Anybody can have their own view on that.
Go ahead, Mike, and then we'll move on to the next guest.
Embedded in the definition of woman is the sense that it's going to be contextual depending on societies, and you just proved my point because you agree. You agree now that what a woman means varies by culture, right?
How about it's this simple? Do you think? Let's say
no. Answer my question. What a woman is varies by
No,
culture,
I don't
right?
agree with that. That's my stance. I'm saying,
But you
I'm
just
saying
said
for
it did. You just said
no,
it
no,
implies
I'm putting
social and
no, I'm
cultural
no,
norms.
hold on. I'm
See, you're
putting it.
confused.
No, I don't agree with that. I'm trying to put into perspective your view on it, right? If you believe it stems from social and cultural norms, right, that differ per person, then I'm saying this. Let's say, for example, we take a trans woman that lives all the way in Africa or Japan or something, right? I'm from America. I have different social and cultural norms than these people that have lived entirely across the world from me. If this person is trans and they go, well, I'm a woman, and I go, well, to me, you're not a woman. You can't affirm or deny either proposition. We hold different cultural, social norms based on your own view of it.
Yeah, so you
A
agree that
personal
womanhood,
opinion.
so you agree that
So,
what a woman means varies
so
by culture.
let's
You
just make it
disagree?
clear.
You agree with me.
Okay,
I agree with
okay, wait,
you.
no. All right. How
Yes.
about this?
But
How about
guys,
this?
we do need to finish up. So I
You have
guess
no points here. I agree that
let me ask it. Let me
women's
ask it this
vary
way.
by culture.
Okay, let's say I do agree. So is it now wrong for me to say that this trans woman from Japan or whatever, Africa that I've never met, is it wrong for me to say that they're not a woman?
It depends on what you mean by woman in the culture you're in. In our culture, woman has certain archetypes.
So it's not wrong. You can't deny the
Trans women
proper
are women in our culture. In another culture,
Okay,
it
might
might be trans women or not or something.
So
Depending on what you mean, it's
So just to be
contextual.
clear, you cannot deny the So just to be clear, you can't deny the
hold on,
proposition that a trans
Trav,
woman is not a woman.
we do have to stop it there because like we're sort of getting into another debate and we have like 20 other people. But
Yeah,
thank
I'm
you for
sorry.
coming out.
All right. I just wanted to ask that. I just don't think you could deny the
Your
proposition that
question
a
is
trans woman is.
nonsense because I recognize that by culture, what you mean by woman is going to be different. I account for that. Your definition as a sex cannot count for any of that.
You're not really
You
accounting
guys
for
are
that, though.
undermining your own views when you say
You're not accounting for it because if I were to say a trans
Yes, I
woman is a woman, you
am.
would go, you're wrong. You can't say that a trans woman is a woman. But then you're saying it's personal beliefs, like
It's not a personal belief. Nobody said it was.
Oh, that wasn't me. That was a mod. But we do got to keep it going. Sorry about that, Trev. But we do have to keep going. I think that was a good choice by the mod. But like, I didn't want to be rude and kick people. I was hoping we could finish it up. But Tiny, do you got a question, comment, or concern? Let me
Mike, I have a question for you. Good to see you, by the way. I have a question for you. Do you think that Edna defined the word definitive in their argument?
No. I don't think so.
Do you think that they defined what a car is?
No, definitely not.
Do you think language is objective or subjective?
Language is a noun, but I think that when we use words or definitions, they're going to be subjective, yeah.
Okay, cool. That's all I wanted to know. Yeah.
Thank you for being here, Tiny.
By the way, W, Mike.
Yep, it's awesome to see you, man.
I want to see Cease and Edna debate next. That would be amazing.
Literally, yeah. Like I gotta set that up, and also like there's 274 people in here. If you want to debate on my channel, literally just send me a DM. I will set up any debate, any topic, as long as it's like appropriate. I host debates, not only on my page, but also I'm working with 2 other creators on the Day of Debates page on TikTok. So go check that out. Me, AR, and OG Kyle are working to bring more formal debates to TikTok. So that's kind of the project that I do. But with that, we're going to go. Haru, do you have a question? And then like Violet,
Yeah.
then Tammy.
Can I ask 2 questions?
Go for it.
Yeah. Mike, what do you think you could have done better in this debate?
Probably pick a different opponent because you didn't know what science was. Look, I can't debate somebody who has like a 2nd grade level understanding of science. They think that everything has to be proved by a study and oh my God, it doesn't match what I want, therefore it's not science. This is like absurd. I actually regret this debate because of how illiterate he was in science.
But also, let's try to be respectful. But like, I'm not critiquing anything that you're saying. But like,
I'm sorry.
let's also keep it
respectful. But yeah, that's all.
My second question is, can you like post your sources or something? Because I have a secondary debate coming up on the same topic.
Yeah, sure. You can DM me and I can give you all this. I have like dozens and dozens of papers, and yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And then Violet, you got a question, comment, concern, or critique?
Yes. Hi. Sorry if the Broncos just won against the Chiefs. Sorry, very happy about that. Yes, I do. So I'm confused about, well, I'm not confused. I would like your input or your opinion about your prompt saying that trans women are women.
Oh, this is just this is a formal debate that we just had. So we're taking questions, comments on the formal debate that we just had.
Oh, you're taking questions. Oh, you're done with the debate part.
Yeah, but the debate will be posted on YouTube. I will be editing it tonight and posting it. So if you want, yeah, you can watch it on my YouTube channel.
Oh, okay, no problem. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But thank you for coming up. If you follow me, I'll follow you back. And yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Take care.
You too. Kenya, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank Mike for standing up for the trans dolls. I'm a trans queen, and I wanted to thank you for protecting us and standing up for us. I really appreciate
No
it.
problem. You got it.
Quick question, Mike. Are you single?
Wait, what?
I am single. I am single.
You are
But-
single? Okay. I'll send you a DM, babe.
Wait, what?
Thanks. Have a good night, baby.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Bye.
My life turned into Tinder. Holy shit. Oh my god.
Dating life now?
What? Okay, well, next guest. Holy.
Hello.
Do we have another? Okay, go ahead, Kylie.
Hi. Yeah, I'm not here to criticize you, Mike, because I'm on your side. But I do have, I think, maybe one or two questions. So, question number one is about the brain thing. So, when like Nate and a few other people were talking about like structural differences and affecting like functional differences, well, couldn't we say that based on like the correlation between like the structural brain differences in trans women and the fact that like we have a different self-perception and sense of self, that the very strong correlation between those things would mean that that would be the like functional difference, the fact that we see ourselves differently and have like a different sense of self and self-perception.
Yes,
That would
that's what we
be
can
like the
infer.
functional difference, right?
This is what we could infer based on the correlative data. But to say, prove to me the functional difference based on the structural difference, that's a tall order to come by, right? Because how do you prove the function of a neuron as its effects on the macro level, right? How do you do that?
Well, you'd have to look at
with one
behavior, wouldn't
study?
you?
We don't do it with one study. We look at multiple studies. We look at all the effects. We look at all the data and we go, yeah, there's a good case here that we can infer a functional difference based on the structure. We also look at background knowledge, right? Brain lesions, tumors. We know that those structural differences cause functional differences. And so again, we can infer based on all the data. And this is what neuroscience is all about. And that's what the other side doesn't understand. They think that there has to be one study that proves function and proves trans man or woman. There's no such thing. There's no study that proves gravity exists. There's no study that proves smoking causes cancer, lung cancer. It doesn't exist.
It's all correlative, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
enough correlation, we can then infer causation. That's how science works.
Yeah, exactly. And that was my point with the whole, having a different sense of self and self-perception that's different to that of a typical person who was born male. That would be the functional difference. It was just weird how everyone was just ignoring that because they always ignore trans people. What we say and what we feel, it doesn't matter. They just want to ignore it. But yeah, like the experiences, the mental and conscious experiences and the behavioral differences would be a consequence. It's like cause and effect, isn't it? So like those structural differences are causing this effect. On top of that, I also wanted to say that like I think it's also very like misogynistic of them to reduce women as just egg makers and baby makers.
Yeah. If anybody,
and
it's
things
them
like
being,
that.
If anybody, it's them being sexist and stereotypical because they're saying, "Oh, woman just means you have the ability to produce eggs." There's more to women than just their egg production. There's more to men than just our penis. There's more to men than just our fucking chromosomes. Like I was saying, if you replaced all my chromosomes, you replaced my reproductive system, I'd still be a man in every sense of the word. I would not become a woman. I would still want to be manly. And that's why you know that there's something more to gender.
Exactly. It reminds me of like those, you know, those movies where they do like the body swaps and everything. And then when they find out that that happens, they'll treat that person as like what their mind is, if that makes sense, instead of like what their body is. Do you get what I mean? Like it's
Yeah,
like
they actually
we
they have
should be
done
treating,
studies.
yeah, we should be
They've done
treating
studies.
people on who they are and on their preferences and on their sense of self and their personality and everything. We should treat people based on that instead of organs that nobody had any choice of being born with anyway. It's just very misogynistic to define women solely as baby makers and just as body parts. It's something the suffragettes fought against for years. It's very patriarchal, in fact, to just define women as that, because we're more than that. Women are more than just somebody who can make a baby, but that's what they were defined as for a very long time and seen as all they were worth.
Yeah, but go ahead and respond, Mike, and then we do have to get to the next guest.
I think I'm done. I think I'm move on. Thank you.
Thank you for coming up, Kylie. If you follow me, I'll follow you.
No worries.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mike, by the way, for everything you do.
Yo, Coco, I just want to advocate for you to bring up no introduction needed. They've been requesting since the beginning, but they're on private, so only you can bring them up.
Okay.
Also, Mike, I love your Mike's Evil Twin. It's one of my favorite pages on TikTok.
Thank you, Forrest. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead. No introduction. Thank you for coming up.
I just wanted to say, Mike, thank you for all that you have contributed to this debate. You are so smart and intellectual. You won that debate. You were the only one who brought sources to this debate. Nate didn't. Nate didn't even know what the definition of a car was. And I've watched your lives a lot. So I'm a big fan of yours. I follow you. I think you probably will see it. But yeah, keep up doing the good work. I do appreciate you. I appreciate your voice. I appreciate you using your time to educate the people who are not educated on us. It just keeps spreading the knowledge. I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. And then next guest here, let me see. It looks like we have 16 left, but I don't. It's not even 16, but I have to count it. But let's see.
They made a good point, right? Like Nate brought no sources. I brought several. Wow, that's a stark difference.
But let me see. Alyssa, let me drop you down, Alyssa, and bring you back up. I think you're struggling to load in. Give me 1 sec. I got you. You're gonna be next. I gotta get Alyssa. Gotta find her. She's somewhere in here. Or request again, Alyssa, and then I'll bring you up.
Real quick, Coco, Mike, somebody wants to know if you can send your sources to them. Their name is Will Dot in the chat.
Yeah, you can DM me and I can send you all the sources you want.
How large is your source doc?
What?
How long or large is your source doc?
Oh, it's 30 pages.
Oh, larger than mine.
Yeah, I have 30 pages of data and research on this, and Nate brought. I don't know what a car is.
But
they just dismiss the data, right? This is what they do. They just dismiss the data. Oh, so you got to prove it functions differently. This is nonsense. This is unscientific. Not at all convincing.
I would say, Alyssa, request again, and I can bring you up. For some reason, I can't find you in the list, but request one more time. Let's see. Oh, I thought I brought somebody up. I said accept. Okay, let me see. Accept this person. Oh, no. They're not. Okay, let me try to get through all these people. Oh, no. Oh, I'm like pressing accept on people, and like I think they withdrew their request, so we might have less people than like it's showing. Okay. Go ahead. We find what you got for us.
Oh, Nate absolutely cooked you guys, and you can cope all you want, but Nate absolutely cooked you.
Can you
Mike,
give the
I don't know
argument?
what
Can
you're
you give
doing.
the
Man.
argument
You
that
make
cooked
good
me?
videos, but you're an absolute moron. And by the way, definitely Blue in the chat there.
Wait, keep
The
it
pedophile.
respectful. Keep it respectful. That's a boundary I'm setting.
I love to hear the argument that cooked me. I love to hear the argument. They don't have it.
Yeah, like you can give your thoughts on the debate, guys, but let's keep it respectful. Like no name calling or anything. I'm not going to tolerate that. Let's see. I'm going from like the bottom of the list. Seeing okay. Me left. You got a question, comment, concern, or critique over the debate?
Yeah, so I'd like to add something with Mike. So, Mike, could you give the social constructs of a woman that differentiate from all men?
Oh my gosh. How many times do I have to explain this to you guys? There is no trait that all women have that men can't have. No, there's an overlapping of traits. This is how cluster concepts work in definitions. We define things not based on definitive traits that are exclusive traits. We can define them based on typicalities.
Okay, so then do you think that when we define sex, we don't define it based off of a generalization of something that's biological?
The sex is defined by certain organs in the reproductive system, but the same one. There's no one trait that only males have that females can't have. Chromosomes, there's variations between sexes. Females can have XY, males can have XX. There's all kinds of variations between chromosomes and gonads and androgens and all kinds of different reproductive organs. And so there is no single trait that distincts perfectly or disambiguates
the males and the female species. All males denote into the reproductive pathway small gametes. And
that's not a trait. That's a cluster of traits. Don't you get it?
Wait, but that's still a descriptive trait. You do understand.
That's not a trait.
It is a sex trait. It is a sex trait that differentiates the differences between a male or female, which is us as gonocoric species. We have a differentiation between being male and female.
There is no difference.
Is one of them.
Name the one trait specifically. One trait that all males have.
Yeah, as I described to you, which is the gonads. Because it's the genotype.
All people have gonads. All people have gonads.
Right, but you do see that difference between male and female. It's a reproductive pathway that all males are surrounded by the reproductive pathway of small.
Hold on, not a single trait. It's a cluster. Answer the gonads part. He did say, all people have gonads. So what would be your response to that?
Yeah, I agree. All people have gonads, and it's still a differentiation between male and female. Because
what is it? What's the trait? What's the trait?
And I will clear it again, because all males denote to the reproductive pathway of small gametes, which
that's not a trait. That's a cluster of traits. So when you say the reproductive pathway, you're insinuating various sexual organs, gonads, and the clitoris, or there's all kinds of different parts of the reproductive system, sir. Name one that only males have.
Yeah, I just gave you one. I don't know why you're debunking into it, because it is still a sex trait.
You did not give one. You gave a cluster of traits.
Okay, can you define how it's a cluster? Can you define how it's a cluster of as a male?
What do you?
That doesn't describe to with females.
What do you mean by denotes a female reproductive or the production of large gametes?
Yeah, so you said that when we talk about the gonads, it's a cluster trait, right? So, what is the cluster trait with a male of the small gametes?
What do you mean cluster trait? You're confused.
No. You brought up the cluster trait, so that's why I'm asking you. So you're basing the gonads as a cluster trait. So I asked the question what is the cluster trait of the gametes where a female does not denote into with that of what the males?
Okay, and then after this, we do have to move on to the next guest.
I'm so confused. The point is that your definition fails to account for a single trait that distincts males and females. Males can have all kinds of parts that females can have. There's no one single trait that all males have.
Okay,
Males
so
can
you
have XX. Males can have all kinds of parts.
right, but I don't define chromosome. I don't define sex by chromosomes. We don't define sex by chromosomes because you can have females, you can have XY, you can have males,
Right.
have
So what's
XY,
the
XYY.
trait? So what is the one single trait that
Right,
all
so
males
that's why I
have?
brought up the gonads because the gonads is a SMEX trait. It is not a cluster concept. It is
What
not a cluster
gonads? What
trait.
gonads?
Yeah, so gonads is basically the reproductive pathway into with the strategy of with, for
No, it's
example, the small
not. That's a
gametes and the
single
large
organ.
gametes.
You're talking about a single trait, sir. Gonads is a single property. The reproductive system is made of a cluster of those properties. You're
Okay.
confused.
Yeah, and with that, we do have to move on to the next guest. I would say like one more question, my left, and then we do have to move on.
Okay, so I can get into the question of how you think that a trans woman is a woman when trans women SMEX are males, and when we talk about genders, because SMEX and gender are synonymous with each other, you can't be a male human and then describe yourself into being a woman, because being a woman is adult human female. All women denote into
This
being
is just question banking, right? This is invalid.
right. So you're running away from the question.
No, it's logically invalid, right? You're question
Can you
banking
prove to
your own
me?
definition.
Can you prove to me a trans woman where there's because all trans
Here
women
we go. To prove to me. Prove to me. You
that all
don't.
trans
You
women
have no idea what you're talking
denote
about.
into the SMEX of a male. So I asked you that where does a trans woman SMEX of male describe into the gender of woman?
And after we answer that question, we
Sex
do
in
have to move
general,
on.
not the same thing. You're so confused.
I asked
takes it seriously.
I asked you.
Okay, yeah, we do have to move on. So sorry about that. Gotta knock these guests out the way. We find. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, so you
What
have
you got?
definitely blue in
What
the
you got
chat. He
for us?
supported a pedophile named Adora. He's in your trans community. That's wild. And there's
Who?
video of it. If anyone wants
What,
proof,
dude?
they can.
Stop.
All right, we're not gonna do that.
People do bad things in every demographic. The idea that one bad person means everybody's bad, and that's ridiculous.
Okay.
Yeah, what that is just an example because I know what exactly they're talking about. Not really.
But Missy. Oh, feel free to block that person. Apparently, that person is maybe stalking Missy. Yeah, go ahead and block that person. Mods, that person that just came up. We do not approve of that. That's weird. Titan, you got any comments, questions, concerns?
Yeah, I do. And back, thank you for the debate today against Nate. He just used the sophism and syllogism. It wasn't really a debate at all. It was just you were just speaking with a child. Look, I think you had more to offer than just the neurobiological stuff. He just pinned you there. The only question that I really have, because basically we couldn't hear anything above him saying, "I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time." Can you explain the cerebral hemispheric asymmetry? Because your words were lost because we couldn't hear you above Nate.
You're asking me to explain the asymmetry between females.
That bit, because Nate kept over talking you when you were trying to explain it, and you prove him wrong.
Yeah. So what he conceded to was the fact that in the study I mentioned, there is an asymmetry in the brain between males and females who are infants. So we know that when you're an infant in the womb or in utero, we know that there are parts of the brain that are going to be sexually dimorphic. Right. And so we can infer from this that, yes, we know that testosterone surges can actually affect the gender identity of that person, even in the womb. Right. And so that's how we build the case that eventually someone goes up, their gender identity is going to be different than what they're assigned to birth.
You're talking about the size and structure of the BNST because it's because of the affect of its exposure to testosterone during fetal development. That's fine, but if you also look at just next time if he tries that with you, if you look at the work that Ivanka Savic does with the Karoline Institute, the symmetry of the brain is reflected even more with the MRI and fMRI research. So we can see that, for instance, straight men and lesbian women have asymmetrical brain structures, while gay men and straight women have symmetrical brain structures. But I think all in all, everything that you gave was on point, and thank you for everything that you're doing, and thank you for making a fool of him. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming out. And yeah, we're nearly towards the end. We're nearly towards the end. Let me see. Oh boy, Mr. Fox. Thank you for being here, Mr. Fox. Questions, comments, concerns, or critiques of the debate we just had?
Yeah, just had a question for Mike.
Sure.
Go for it.
So I really enjoyed your logical reasoning and understanding of science. I just wanted to ask you which books you've read to come up with these conclusions. I would like to know them too.
Well, I've done the research, right? So I've looked at there. I have a page of. I have a file of like 30 different pages full of studies and research within neuroscience, endocrinology, right? Various different fields of study, psychology, behavioral sciences, which show and build a case that there's more to gender than just your sex.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much, but I meant when you said about cluster concepts, for example, the philosophy behind them, the logical reasoning.
Yeah, cluster concepts is a well-known concept in linguistics, right? It's how we define things, not based on necessary or sufficient conditions, but based on typicalities or different clusters of traits.
So you'd recommend reading books about the logics of linguistics?
Yeah, you don't have to read a physical book, but yes, you can read online. You can study philosophy, study science. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. That's all I had to ask.
Oh, thank you for coming up. We appreciate you. Oh, yeah. And thank you guys for being here. We're trying to knock out all of these guests as quickly as we can. I'm looking at it, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have like 15 people left, and then that's it. But yeah, I guess let's see if we can knock them out. But also, yeah, Mike, if you need to go at any time, like, yeah, you're free to go, but it's up to you.
Yo, hi. I'm glad I got to come up. Really, I just wanted to say thank you, Mike, for what you do. And I'd also like to bring up that I think it's ridiculous that almost every single guest, every single person that talks about trans people like this on the opposing side doesn't bring up the one thing that actually matters in this whole debate, which is the ethical case for this. Who cares if the definition of a woman matches what you want it to do? The thing that actually matters is that people are actively dying in danger and being oppressed around the world. And it's so much more important to focus on respecting these people and talking about the effects that it does of continuing to oppress them and allow this rhetoric that even if we would concede that it's wrong, we should still be treating trans people like people. We shouldn't be killing them.
Unaliving for the live, but go ahead.
Oh yeah, oops.
You're good.
And I think it's really just a horrendous mischaracterization or misfocus of the whole debate, focusing on just the definition of it when there's so much more to it.
Yeah, I wish we could just make the ethical case, but unfortunately for these people, we have to like show functional proof, which doesn't exist, right? Because look, at the end of the day, they don't really care. They just see things that are weird to them, go icky, I don't like it, and they're going to try to find any way to disagree and deny. Right? This is called cognitive dissonance. Right?
Yeah,
no matter
absolutely.
how much evidence you give them, they're going to no. They're going to try to find something wrong with any study you give them. Right? Just like climate change deniers and flat earthers, they do the same tactic, right? Oh no, that study doesn't prove it, right? They don't understand science, and that's the inherent issue. But yeah, I wish we could just make the ethical case and make people understand the torment that trans people go through. And I wish I could just make people understand who they are more. And that's why I bring the science. That's why I bring the understanding through neuroscience. That's why I try to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey man, thank you so much. Have a nice day, both of you.
Yep. Thank you for coming up. And next one, we're almost there.
I don't have to be here forever. I mean, you can if you have to go. Yeah, I'm fine right now, but maybe a couple more questions.
Okay, yeah, no, like I'm doing good. I'll be here for a while. I'm playing video games and streaming it to YouTube and Twitch, but yeah, I'll host a live for as long as possible to get everybody. But what's up, D? What you got for us?
Hi there. Good evening, Mike.
Yes.
Host. Mike, I'm understanding where you're coming from. I just had a couple of a few statements. Obviously, Nate is a very educated young man, so I don't
No,
think it's fair to say that he's not.
I
And the
disagree.
definition of a car could mean many things. It could, like you said, it could be a vehicle. It could be any vehicle. It could be a bus. It could be a train. It could be a truck. It could be anything of that sort.
Yeah,
But that aside, as a mature person, I would actually like to ask you on the topic that you touched on briefly during the debate. You mentioned something that science has now developed a way for utero to be actually determined whether you're carrying a gender neutral person or like a transgender person. You said that the science has reached that far. Can you elaborate on that, please, a little bit? You said
we
in
know.
utero we
Look,
are able to tell now.
we have background knowledge in neuroscience that the way your brain operates is what gives rise to your thoughts, your personalities, your feelings, your emotions. It all comes from your brain. This is basic neuroscience.
But that's not
And so,
something we're going to be able to determine in every
hold on, this
pregnant
is what I
woman.
was going to this. There are certain parts of the brain that we are now understanding are heavily correlated to gender. There are bodily perception in the somatosensory cortex, right? There's a part of the brain that deals with your bodily perception. There's a part of the brain called the hypothalamus that deals with the gender and the way you perceive yourself. There are different parts of the brain that we can study precisely, and we find that there's a stark effect that occurs when we realize, yeah, your brain phenotype is going to actually shift towards your identity, not your birth sex type, right? Because there's a mosaic of brains.
That doesn't really answer my question.
We can categorize certain
My
brains
question
as
is
male
that
or female.
to this point, yeah, Mike, to this point,
You're not
doctors
listening.
have been able to do scans and determine whether what gender the child is, what the utero.
No. We can do scans that determine the sex of the brain with certain
But
accuracy.
we are not able to determine whether they're gender neutral or whether they will carry trans.
We can infer based on the data about someone's identity. This is why my case is strong.
How would we determine that in utero? This is my question.
Not in utero. We discover that when the people grow up, okay, and we can talk to them and study them, then we go, yeah, wow, look at how the brain evolves through time, and look at how these parts of the brain are heavily correlated to their gender identity. Yeah, there's something going on here, and it's not just sex.
But you mentioned earlier on in the debate that we can now determine through science, even in the utero,
No, that's not what I said. You didn't understand a single thing I told you. We can determine in utero the sexual dimorphism, the way the brain structures are different depending on their sex. That's what we can find in neuroscience, and we can see. We know, and that's all I said. We don't know someone's identity in utero.
That's what I'm saying. There isn't scientific way so far to determine whether you're carrying.
We don't need to know a baby's personality. We don't need to know a baby's identity. No, this is nonsense.
Utero, there is literally no science to back that up so far.
We don't need science to demonstrate someone's identity in utero. We can't ask a fetus fucking questions, ma'am. I'm sorry. We don't need that, right? We look at the studies after someone grows up and we can talk to them and we go, oh, look, this person's identity is this. Because we see their brains light up when we activate and stimulate those parts of the brain. Yeah, that's evidence. We don't need to talk to fetuses.
I do believe this was a great debate. A lot of interesting questions came up. It was kind of short, to be honest. Would you be open, actually, to doing another debate with Edna Mode?
Yeah, but again, he has to do some serious learning in science. He doesn't understand what evidence is or proof.
I think we had 800 people in this room, so you would be able to...
It would be like me debating a first grader. It would be like me debating a first grader about like calculus. It's not going to happen.
You believe he's a first grader, really?
In the realms of science, yes, he has a very low understanding of science.
But with that, we do got to move to our next guest.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for coming up, Dee. I appreciate you. And we'll grab the next one. Let's do this. And welcome, boss. What you got for us?
Hey. Well, one, I wanted to thank you because I thought this was a great live, and you did a great job hosting this debate. And I just want to tell the audience, anyone, please make sure you're hitting their gift goals and gift the host for their time because they did put on this awesome debate for us. But yeah, Mike, I thought you did awesome. That was great. I've checked out some of your videos on your page, and you have for anyone that wants sources, he's got sources linked in most of his videos, especially about trans people or gender, and they're really fascinating. So yeah, I loved what you did, and that's the thing is that people don't realize that they think Nate is this big, great debater, but when you put him against somebody that actually is educated and has the science backed, he can't even define a car. So let's be real here, people. Okay, we're not talking on the same levels, right? I'm not going to deny that Nate's a smart kid because he is.
He's clever, but again, he just doesn't know what science is, and that's just why I kind of regret this debate because it's like talking to a child at this point, right?
But any other questions, comments, or concerns? Oh, and also thank you for what you said. I'm playing Fortnite and streaming it to YouTube and Twitch. But yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I host debates. I try to put on very educational and professional debates on TikTok, and yeah, I'll definitely be doing more of those. Tons of more of those.
Oh yes, I wanted to say, can it be longer next time?
Oh yeah. Actually, because before I started on TikTok, I love watching debates and taking notes on them, and I like long debates, but TikTok is a bit short formatted, and some of my friends said I should host short debates. But if the audience wants longer debates, I would personally prefer longer and more informational packed debates. But yeah, we could definitely do that.
Yeah, no, it was a great way you did it. I think that part when they went back and forth, had we had a little bit more time, Mike could have kept going and destroyed him even more. So that would have been nice to have. But
yeah, I wish it was more time. But again, debating someone with that low ability, I don't know.
But
yeah. And if you need any mods for next time, I will definitely help you and love to promote you and have people gift you because you definitely deserve it. Thank you both.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, I'll definitely consider it. And let's see.
Well, one more guest here because I'm getting tired.
Okay, no, totally fine. Yeah, thank you for being here. As long as you've been here, I guess this will be the last one, and then everybody else, I guess they can DM you, right? Or it depends on you. Would you be okay with that? But it might be a lot of DMs, but it's up to you.
Talking to me?
Yeah. For the rest of the guests, is it okay to say that they can just DM you, but it's up to you?
Yeah, anybody can DM me.
I guess this will be the last one, and then we'll conclude it there. Oh wait, hold on. You got load in. Let me see. Let me pick a good one. And let's see if they'll load in. Oh, welcome, Calm. Yeah, you'll be our last question, and thank you for being here.
Oh yeah, I just had a question for Mike.
Oh, two people. Go ahead. Okay. I'll do it, and then I guess you two will be the last ones. I guess.
Yeah, I don't really mind who goes first. It's up to you. It's Calm.
I was just gonna say, bringing up a whole car thing is an L thing for you. That's not a gotcha for him. You bringing up a car thing and debating science. That's an L. That's an instant L for you.
Why?
And another thing,
Why?
Mike,
Why?
is dermatology a science?
Why? Wait, why is it an L?
Because what does cars have to do with biology or neurology?
The point is that there's a linguistic error. There's a linguistic malfunctioning in his fucking linguistics. You can't define a car. That's a problem.
Why are you talking about cars? See, you did the same thing. You did the same thing when me and you debated. And
because you're wrong as well. You're both wrong.
Back to cars.
Your guys are both wrong.
That's you taking an instant L
It's
You
not
look
supposed to be the
stupid.
one for one analogy.
He's pointing out.
He's pointing out the framework for his definitions. Don't have the capacity to define the car.
Stick to the topic neurology that you're
It's a
backing. Don't go
linguistic
to
thing. He's
cars.
talking about
That's an L
linguistics.
on your side. Now, Mike, is optometry and dermatology, are they both sciences?
This guy's not tracking.
Dermatology, skin. The study
Yeah,
of
is that a
skin?
science?
Yes, it's a type
Okay,
of.
would we use dermatology or optometry to determine whether someone is a man or a woman?
No.
Why not? That's science.
That's why there's different.
Why not?
Science.
Would that be ignoring science? Also, does neurology
It's not
determine
relevant
somebody's sex?
science.
It's not relevant science. Like
It's not
Right,
relevant.
just like neurology isn't relevant science.
to
Stupid.
gender. Neurology isn't relevant science to gender. The
No,
whole
it's
conversation
not.
about, like, the whole conversation
Okay,
about
so
gender
right,
and sex.
I'll prove it. I'll prove it. Hold on. Mike said earlier that I would still want to be manly. Tell me what it means to be manly versus
You
being
don't think that would be
womanly.
a neurological thing?
Tell me what it means to be manly versus being womanly.
Everything about your personality comes from your brain. Everything
Okay,
you
tell
know.
me what it means to be manly. You said
Calm
that you're
down,
manly,
calm-
which I disagree with.
Calm
What do
down.
you mean? What do you mean by it being manly?
I mean,
What do you mean
exhibit
by
more
that?
masculine behaviors, right? More
You have a
masculine features.
okay, what makes you masculine?
My
versus not
assertiveness,
feminine.
the expectations for being dominant and assertive and,
So
and
no
competitive,
women
right?
want
These
to
are
be
some of the
dominant.
traits.
No
What?
women want to be dominant.
When did I ever say that? No.
You're saying that I'm asking you what makes you manly.
When we say manly, we're referring to masculine features like assertiveness and dominance and competitiveness.
So no.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
No women are competitive, or I'm not.
There can
I'm
be
not.
masculine women. I never said there couldn't. What's your point, sir?
My point is that there's personalities that men and women have, but personality isn't gender. Your gender is given by your sex.
I never said personality is the same thing as gender. Gender
That's
is
what
a
you guys are
larger,
misinterpreting. That's what you are. So manly and assertive and dominant. That's part of your personality. That's not your gender.
Those are gender expressions.
Exactly. Expressions that men and women have.
Stop. Gender is a larger, more broader encompassing thing, right? It includes certain personality traits. It includes certain behaviors. So yes,
Right.
those are included in
Man
gender.
is not a
You
behavior.
have no
Woman
point.
is not a behavior.
Okay,
What?
Human beings.
I'm not sure if you're tracking, but
What?
we have to move on to the
No,
next.
you're not tracking. It's all in your. You're not. The fact that you're a man is not in your head. It's because of your body.
Okay, so if I removed your body, you would be a girl?
Yeah,
It makes no sense, right? You take my brain and put it into a female body, I'd still be a man. Like, I'm not going to become a woman because you remove my brain.
My question for Mike would just be like, so what do you think of like intrinsic humility?
Is this a troll?
No, I'm actually asking like, what do you think? Because like in your
Intrinsic
debate, like I
humility?
saw like you were like arguing over each other and stuff. So I'm just like,
Oh
really
my
asking,
god,
you
bro!
know?
It's a debate. We're gonna get heated.
No, like so.
Relax.
So
It's
do you
not
think
big
that
a
we
deal
could
to
all like
interrupt
strive
you.
to be more intrinsically humid, or not?
Humid?
Yeah, like intrinsically human.
What the heck are you talking about? Humid.
Intrinsic humility, like not over talking each other in a debate, but just being like really respectful.
You obviously are not familiar with debating.
No. I'm
When
just
you
saying like
debate people,
being like
you
really
often
respectful and stuff.
You often interrupt each other, and you don't do it on purpose. Sometimes you just do it because you're talking.
Okay, I understand that. But do you think
how things go? It's not
do you
that big
think
a
there
deal.
do you think there will ever be like a point in your life where you're just like matured enough to be like intrinsically humid enough to like have those like debates without arguing? Like and
Maybe when I
over-talking?
go to Florida, I'll be humid enough.
Yeah.
I'm just like asking like.
You mean
What the fuck are you talking about? Humid?
Yeah.
Get this guy out of here. I'm done.
Okay, yeah.
Mike's.
With
Yeah,
that,
I have another question.
I mean, we do have to conclude. Mike has to go. But yeah, thank you, Mike, for being here and answering like all those questions. And yeah, this night has been like really fun. I appreciate all of you guys being here.